Like, that's my position. I don't think whatever we're getting isn't worth it. And don't ask me to articulate the benefit, because I think the cost is greater than the benefit. Everybody in Gaza is, at this point, has to hate Israel, right? And by extension, those bombs, when they see American politicians go over there and like sign the freaking bombs that are going to kill women and children.
Thomas Massey is absolutely correct about that, and that's the gentleman you heard in that clip yesterday. Representative Thomas Massey, of course, joined Theo Von for a wide-ranging interview that also happened to touch on the topic of Israel and what's currently going down in Gaza. Now, we'll start with Massey's thoughts on the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Let's watch him talk about the sheer scale of death and destruction.
What do we get from Israel, do you feel like?
We got a lot of countries that hate us. It's one of the things we get.
Well, especially right now with this stuff in Gaza, I think it's one of the worst PR campaigns I've ever seen in my life. If they're even, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, I just don't, it gives their government this extremely evil look to me, and I think to a lot of people,
Well, rough numbers, there are 2 million people in Gaza and 50,000 have been killed. That's 2.5%. Like, they've killed 1 in 40 people in Gaza. If you did that in the United States, if you did 2.5% of 350 million, it'd be almost 10 million people dead in the United States. Everybody in Gaza is at this point related to somebody who's been killed. Like, at least a first cousin had killed. And then if you say how many have been maimed, it's probably 3 or 4 times that.
I want to add to what Massey is saying there, because as he was talking about how everyone in Gaza who's still alive knows at least one family member who died as a result of this current genocide, I couldn't help but think about how Israel tends to respond to people who are openly critical of the genocide that's happening in Gaza. I think about people like Miss Rachel, right? Miss Rachel, who creates children's content, who is absolutely disgusted by the number of children who have died, number of children who have been maimed as a result of this genocide. She hasn't said anything even close to anti-Semitic. She cares about the kids, and she gives the kids a voice. And she's been dealing with threats. She's been dealing with all sorts of horrible treatment from, the defenders of Israel. And if you're worried about the way the world perceives you, maybe don't terrorize people who are speaking out against the slaughter of children.
Yeah, so a couple things here. First of all, a lot of truth telling there. And again, I was on the air before the Iraq War. Young Turks, the oldest show in internet history. And we never got any of this from Republicans. We never got any of this from any other media. It was just us and Democracy Now! Every other media was massively pro-war. They would never allow someone to say, hey, what do we get from Israel? Nothing but enemies. I wouldn't give Israel another dollar. These things were verboten. You were never allowed to say that. And they could say, oh, Cenk, that's so wrong. It was just a coincidence that it was never said on air for about 18 years straight. Okay, maybe it was a coincidence, okay? That it was perfectly legal, just nobody wanted to say it, right? And by legal, of course, what I mean is groupthink, the etiquette of that particular news organization. And everybody in the building knew, you're not allowed to criticize Israel. If you do, your career will be in massive jeopardy. They could pretend that that's wrong, but ask anyone in media, when you get them alone, is it true? They're like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna say anything against Israel, you're nuts, right? So now we're in a different world, where people are actually saying things that are true and critical of Israel. So, Theo Von's kind of like an innocent guy.
He is, that's why I love it, but that's what I love, because he gives the perspective of a normie, right? He's not a super hyper-political guy. He's just seeing what's happening, and he's telling us what he thinks about it.
Yeah, and I know Democrats now hate him and everyone in the brosphere because, oh my God, they had Trump on.
Well, everyone hates Democrats, so who cares what they hate?
No, I got you. But Theo Von is not some sort of weirdo, evil MAGA guy who's part of a conspiracy to lie to everyone to get Trump elected.
No, he's a normie.
He's a normie, so a lot of times he doesn't know all the intricate details of the politics, right? And he looked at it before the election like, yeah, the Democrats seem really fake, right? And they do seem really fake because they are. Now, that doesn't mean that you should have voted for Trump, but that's the same kind of like, and you could say, oh, that's the direction where it went badly, right? And that we don't agree with him on that. But the good news is that when he goes in the direction of Israel, he's like, I don't know, it looks kind of evil that they're killing all those people. Yeah, that's right. So sometimes you need someone who is not like the world's greatest expert on news to just look at it with a fresh set of eyes.
Exactly,
right?
yes, yeah.
And so, and when Massey says no more money to Israel, there's a faction of MAGA, definitely not all of MAGA, but a faction that goes, hell yeah, the America First faction, right? Now, if Trump said it, if Trump said no more money to Israel, that's it, we're keeping the money home, which by the way, I talk to MAGA, so like I know this is like terrible, but what happens is then you wind up learning their opinion. And so whether it's for good or for bad, and a lot of times it's for bad, but in this case, a lot of MAGA doesn't realize that Trump didn't end funding to Israel. They think he did. Okay?
What? Why would they think that?
Because they're misinformed, because they watch right-wing shows, and right-wing shows say, oh, we cut all funding to the whole world.
No.
They never say, except Israel and
true.
Egypt.
That's true.
Right?
Yep.
Since they never say that, a lot of MAGA thinks he already did cut funding to Israel.
Right.
Okay, so now, if Trump were to actually do that, come out and say, no, that's it. I said no funding to any country, including Israel, and we're not sending them any more money for this. Oh my God, he'd be enormous. Like, all of MAGA would agree with him instantly. Then it would go from a faction to all of them. So that's the whole right wing. We already had most of the left wing. The only people that would be left are the people on TV, right? And Washington. So it would be the politicians and the television hosts versus the rest of us. And that's a battle I want. And by the way, that's not an easy battle to win, because one of the problems with Trump is that he watches TV and only TV.
And he loves Fox News.
Yeah.
Still, yes.
So he'll go on Fox News, and Fox News will say, "Oh yeah, 98% of the country says you should be Israel's servant." And I don't know, that's what the people want, right? So TV in Washington versus all of the rest of us is a battle that I've been waiting for my whole life.
So with that in mind, let's talk about money, because money in politics serves a huge purpose in regard to getting our politicians to support Israel's causes. And Thomas Massie weighed in on that during this conversation. Take a look.
It's a weird amalgamation of combined interests. There's a military-industrial complex that is all in for everything AIPAC is for. And before I banned AIPAC from my office, we used to have conversations that would go something like this. Oh, you should be for the foreign aid that goes to Israel because it all comes back to the United States in the form of military spending. We're buying it all from American contractors. And be like, no, that's not a convincing argument to me. America doesn't make money off of war. A few people in America do make money off of war, and they make a lot of money off of war. So they want the music to keep going. They don't want the music to stop.
I think I'm going to donate money to Massie's campaign.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far.
Why?
Did you see the rest of the things he thinks?
No, he thinks all sorts of things I disagree with. Okay, but in that district, it's going to be a Republican.
Oh, that's
so. Do I prefer a neoconservative pro-war Republican over Massey? Hell no, I don't.
Yeah, no, I got you. I wouldn't go as far as giving him money, but I appreciate that he's honest. And look, that's the second thing that he just opened up that we never talk about, which is the military-industrial complex.
Yes.
So they're like, again, I mean, this is a point I made on the Young Turks dozens of times, but to see a right-wing congressman make it on a popular online